Hi, guys. So happy to have you here with us today. I'm joined by Grace Clark, who is an Army spouse and a creative account manager. Hi, Grace.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
I'm excited for your for folks to learn more about what you do and share a little bit about your story. And I've had the best time talking about you. And I think before we get started, why don't you go ahead and tell them a little bit about what you do? We were just talking about like the necessity of being able to tell your 30-second elevator pitch. So here's your practice.
All right, here we go. So, I am from South Carolina and I went to school and studied historic preservation. And I started out of school working for an interior designer in the retail storefront. And I loved the interior design world. So I decided to go back to school and get a master's of interior design. So I did that. And then my husband and I got married while I was in school and we moved together to Fort Campbell. It was a great time. I worked for a residential design firm growing from grad school forward. And then we moved to Southwest Georgia for my husband's captain's career course at Fort Benning. And then we just moved out to Colorado Springs about 2 years ago. And now I work in the commercial furniture industry. So still within interior design as a designer mixed with a sales hybrid role. So we're happy to be in Colorado and happy to connect.
No, this is cool. And I was telling Grace that I had read her story, and then just in chatting with her, it's just amazing to me, like your positive outlook, right? You are so positive about everything. And I was talking to her about it. She said, well, she thought that there was no other way to be, especially in the military lifestyle, right? So, I mean, with your attitude, I have no doubts that you're going to achieve your goals. And, I did read your whole highlight. So I just wonder, is it still your dream to own a retail design store? I mean, if so, how are you going to start working toward that goal?
Yes, that is one of my goals for sure. So I think my husband and I kind of have established a way to have the military lifestyle work with our life goals, kind of um, in in sequence with each other. And so we've established, okay, you can have goals, you cannot have plans, but you can have goals. And so we've developed as a joke, a Clark LLC meeting, which is where we'll get together and talk about household, like business things that we need to go over. And so on the Clark LLC meeting agenda and vision board, we have a design store for myself. I have loved working in the design industry, but I have always worked in retail. And I don't know if I noticed that everywhere we have moved, each duty station, I worked in retail. Even now, I have a corporate job, and on the weekends, I work at a women's clothing boutique for fun to meet members of the community and connect with people in the beautiful town that we are so lucky to live in. So it's on our vision board, and the plan is to just keep trucking along with what the Army tells us to do and figure out how we can, get to that end goal when the time comes. So it is a
No,
goal.
I love the way you said so you can have goals and not necessarily plans because that's right, right? Because like plans change, right? And no, that's really smart. And it sounds like communication is really key in your household where
Yes.
you're both still moving in the same direction. You're doing well.
Yes, yeah. We like to be on the same page and make sure our goals are aligned. We've had so many amazing mentors in both of our careers that have just kind of realigned us with what's important to you and your family is what's important to you and your career and just making sure you're on the same page. And that has been really, really beneficial advice that we've gotten from people over the years.
No, I agree. So, for the military spouses out there who are listening and perhaps curious, would you consider interior design a portable career?
Yes,
Mm.
100%. So when I started in interior design, I was in the residential world, and I think there's a common misconception with people who don't fully understand what interior designers do. It's more than just picking out fabrics and art for the upper class and their second, third, fourth homes. It's really impactful what interior designers can do in commercial spaces. So, um, even in graduate school, we learned the impacts that the built environment has on people in facilities such as children's cancer centers or correctional facilities, even schools and classrooms. So there is a wide variety of opportunities within the interior design world, and it's a very portable career because you can work for so many different aspects of residential design, so many different aspects of commercial design, and I would have never had the opportunity to work where I am now if it hadn't been for the military moving us to different locations, and it's given me a lot of experience that I wouldn't have otherwise had.
No, that's a great segue to another question I'd wanted to ask. Like, what role does career planning really play in your life then? Because as you're so adeptly pivoting and finding opportunities in different but related industries, do you find yourself making adjustments to your long-term goals along the way?
Yes, definitely. I would say my husband and I have both made career planning adjustments. His life and career is definitely very strongly impacted by the Army, and his career progression is very somewhat strict compared to mine. So we've kind of taken the mentality of career progression in regards to our family goals or financial goals, things like that. So I, for the longest time, thought I was going to work for a luxury residential company for however many years of employment I was going to have. And I think being a military spouse has really, really pushed me to be flexible and open to different opportunities. So I worked in the residential design world, um, but that field isn't 100% necessary in every economy that military bases are in. So in Colorado Springs, where we live now, there's not as many residential design firms, and the opportunity came to work in the commercial sector, which I hadn't done before. So it was a little scary for me. Um, but I'm really enjoying, the sector that I'm in and the job that I have, and I would have not ever in a million years thought that I would have stepped out of residential design has it not been for my husband's career. And I just think it's such a blessing to have had experience in different, parts of the design industry that I would have never experienced before. And I've met so many amazing people that I wouldn't have met otherwise. So the career planning is a hard aspect, but I think it's been relatively easy for me to stay in design because it is a portable career, like we were saying earlier.
And it sounds like you just stay flexible, like you find opportunities. And
Yes.
then one of the threads that has like come through with a lot of the spouses is that you also have to recognize an opportunity as an opportunity. Because I think some people are like, oh, that's not an opportunity because it's not exactly what I want to do.
Exactly. Oh yeah, I could not agree more. I've applied to probably 120 jobs over the last 8 years of my husband's, military career, and that's barely, that's a lot of jobs to apply for, but you can't be super picky. But I think you just have to kind of go with the flow. So that's what I've been trying to do is just go with the flow in terms of career. And it has allowed me to open my eyes to how much the industry can offer and how many opportunities there are within design and the impact that you can make from a commercial or residential side is going to be great because people love and need design in their lives.
I'm glad you said that because I'm going to ask you to dip your toe into the residential design space for a minute, put that hat on. And I'm going to ask, I mean, from where you sit as a military spouse, like when you move every 2 to 3 years, it can just seem daunting to try to decorate that base house again or, post housing. I mean, I know a lot of people live off the installation, but even for people who live off the installation, like a lot of us don't buy nice things until our husbands are retired, our spouses are retired, because we're like, we don't want them to break things. So how do we decorate in a way that, appeals to our sensibilities and like create a home within the military lifestyle? Any tips?
Yes, that's a great question. We have moved, I think 4 times so far. So we've had our hand in the pot a little bit. Um, but my favorite thing to do when moving is just embracing where you're living and embrace the culture and the art that's around you. And I think one of my favorite tips and tricks is go into an antique store and find some really cool pieces of art because art is translatable. It can always be reframed. You know, you don't have to worry about military movers breaking things that, you know, are
Yeah.
not super expensive, but they remind you of a time and place during your military moves. So we have some really cool Native American arrowheads that I found at an antique store when we lived in Fort Campbell. And we have them framed and they've had a place in all of our houses. And it just reminds us of the time that we lived there and our first house together, things like that. My other piece of advice would be to embrace the man cave if you have the space for it. And it's not always aesthetically pleasing, but you know, um, in the military, they love to give each other awards for well-deserved, you know, promotions or accolades. My husband has tons of things framed from, you know, every job he's had or the coins, collector coins, and they deserve a spot. So just embracing the man cave for all of those belongings is a really great way to not have them in your house, but more of in a special place. Um, and then go, yeah, a special place that I don't have to look at, but we can commemorate your hard work somewhere. Um, I would say probably another piece of advice is embrace the environment you're in. So right now we're living in Colorado. We have a lot of Western inspired rugs or vases throughout our house, and that won't always translate to the different duty stations you live at. You know, my Native American woven rug might look a little out of place if we get stationed in Hawaii, but embrace the environment you're in so you can feel most at home and do not invest in custom furniture pieces that are custom to
Mm.
fit a singular room. We love a sectional. I love a sectional. I do. But if it's not modular and it is custom fit to a living room that you're gonna be in for 2 years, it's not worth your money.
Those are really good tips. And I mean, I just remember how many shades we traveled with, like blinds that were custom fit. And I'm like, we should have just dumped them or just left them in the house. We
Yes.
never used them again. And just ended up throwing it away. And I love your idea about the artwork because we recently visited one of our friends and they have a wall where they have a beautiful piece of art from every assignment they've been in. So it's not like a piece of art from the base. So it's not like, oh, Cannon Air Force Base or whatever. It's from New Mexico. And, and I was buying during the pandemic, my husband, if he were here, he'd be like, yeah, too much. I was buying a lot of art online, on those auction sites, and I would get beautiful pieces of art for like $100 and they were already framed and they would come. And I mean, I think I paid more for the framed art than I would have paid just for the frame.
Yeah.
And so that's a really great tip because, like, especially antique shops and thrift shops, there's some beautiful artwork that's like really affordable.
There really is, yeah. And even little art galleries around town. I mean, there's so many amazing up and coming artists, especially in Colorado Springs, that you can get some really cool original pieces of art for a really low price point, and it engages you in the community. There's a story to tell when you have new friends coming over, you move to a new duty station, and it's just a nice reminder of your past and how you got to this one place or the memories that you hold from buying that art. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a really wonderful tip. And I love and I love their wall. Like, and when I talk to my friends about it, they just get a smile on their face because and you can tell they're reminiscing about the base they were at when they bought the artwork. And I think I'm like, we should have done that, but whatever, hindsight's 2020. Well,
Oh
Grace, this has been so fun. I'm gonna give you the opportunity to have the last word, whether you want to give a tip about, what people should do if they're thinking about pursuing interior design? Like, would you recommend that they go for hands-on experience, or would you recommend that they go to school for it? Or if there's one big takeaway that people can walk away with after hearing your chat, what would you want that to be?
Yeah, I think maybe a piece of advice from interior design is if you're passionate about it, start working for, a textile company. Just get your hands involved. It's really hard to rationalize the investment of going back to school when your spouse moves so frequently. So I think experience, and I went to grad school, I'm paying for it, I understand the investment is worth it in a lot of opportunities, but if you have any interest in something that you think you're passionate about, just start working, start interning. I've had maybe 6 internships in my life, that's
Hmm.
a lot of different opportunities, but it helps you narrow down like what you really want. And thankfully, the military life does give you more flexibility than you would anticipate because I can work at an internship for, let's say, 6 months while my husband is doing training for 8 months, and then we move. It just gives you the opportunity to get your hands in an industry you otherwise might not have. And just the experience and meeting people and making connections has been really, really beneficial for us. And it just opens your eyes to how many opportunities are out there, especially if you keep a positive mindset. And, my life is focused around the happiness of our current and present, um, or our present and future of me and my husband and our life together. So that's our priority. And just as long as you're open and communicate with your spouse about your goals and how you can support each other, I think it'll be great.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Grace. And thank you for joining us. And thank you all for joining us today. We hope that you will share your stories with us because we love highlighting all these fantastic military spouses doing great things around the globe. Grace, I just had an opportunity to talk about a couple of them, and we were both like stunned at what they were doing. Like, I never would have, I mean, our husbands are generations apart. Neither one of us could have imagined that, there would be people running safari companies in South Africa who are also military spouses, or, like, just amazing people. So please, please, please share your stories with us. And we want to thank our friends over at USAA for making these conversations possible. And we hope that you join us again next week. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.